like how I introduce it?
Yeah,
I love your lipstick. Let's start it off here. I really like your lipstick today.
Really?
It's so pretty. What's
Thank
that
you.
called? Yeah.
Pure heroin.
Oh, not a good name.
Not at all.
Okay. Welcome, guys, to another episode of
Houses, Heels, and Hooks.
Today we have Brittany here with us, and we're going to speak a little bit on property management. Being as though we just came through the last episode of real estate, there's so many different avenues for real estate, so we thought we would kind of give you a little bit from the landlord's perspective and roll it right into property management, something you'll need as a landlord. You don't have to, but with me, I think that it is needed. So that takes a load off of yourself as being a landlord and managing the property and trying to have 24-hour on-call services and things of that sort that you'll get from your tenant who are in need of maintenance requests and things of that sort. So we have Brittany Brown here to to help us out and to give you a little bit of information on what she does and as far as from a property management perspective and her reason for, sorry, I have like post-its, for moving in that direction. So Brett.
Hi. Tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then why you chose property management.
Okay.
You gotta speak up.
So I did real estate transacting, office work for like 12 plus years. Doing much of the paperwork, putting together contracts and listings. And then I got the opportunity to do property management. So I hated real estate. I hated transacting,
Really?
buying and selling. I didn't like it at all.
Well, that's the answer.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I didn't, because I'm more of a people person. I like to build relationships.
Mhm.
So
you weren't out. You weren't out
No.
in. Oh, okay. So you were in the office
Yes.
running doing like transaction coordinator.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a little different.
Yeah. So for me, it was like building relationships, and our office had a high turnover.
Mhm.
And with property management, I had the opportunity to actually, really get to know people instead of just, okay, we sold your house, thank you, or all right, here's your paperwork, and we're moving on to the next.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I started. The opportunity arose, I took the test, and took it like 3 or 4 times. I was
The realtor?
the property management
Oh,
test.
property management.
Because math has never been my strong subject, and it's really the math part of it.
So, question: how many times can you take it, or it doesn't?
I think it's either 2 or 3 consecutively. Then you have to wait a period, and you can go back and take it again.
Okay.
But that's just for DC.
Oh, DC. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
you
Maryland-
do need a license.
In DC, Maryland does not require
Oh.
you to have a license.
Okay, that was one of my questions.
Yeah, because I can manage properties, and I actually can manage in both. But DC, they want you to have a license.
Okay, so
And
I
it
was
can,
getting ready to say it's kind of from what I'm hearing from you. It's kind of like the cosmetology field, where if you have a cosmetologist license, then you basically can do just about everything. Whereas because I have a nail technician's license, I can't do
hair.
waxing and I can't do hair, I can't do
Right.
waxing, I can't do mainly waxing.
Mm-hmm.
But whereas Nicole has a cosmetologist license, she can do nails, she can do waxing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think it's based on the jurisdiction. So every state has different rules. So it just depends on what state you're in.
and for DC, the continuing education for property management is the exact same for real estate. So
Okay.
Oh, okay. It's good to know. So how many properties would you oversee when you were employed by an actual property management company?
So I helped start up a company. He actually was working under a different broker. He brought everything one day to the table and was like, "Hey, I'm starting my own company." Before I left, I did that for 2 years, but before I left, I had over 80 units on my own. So 80 to 100. Might have been pushing closer to 100 when I left. but that was units. So I had 2 apartment complexes, and then all the rest of them were individual units.
Okay.
So what exactly? Can you give them like a little synopsis of what you would do as far as?
Oh gosh, everything. Rent collections, maintenance, 24-hour calls, managing 24-hour calls, preparing and sending out reports, owner reports, tenant issues, dealing with DC Housing Authority because we had a lot of Section 8, legal issues, back and forth to court,
Oh wow.
just everything.
So did you have like a specific application you would use to?
At that time, we used it's an application called Appfolio.
App phone?
Mm-hmm. So what they do is they help you build your website, and you can track your maintenance through there. You can do. They have a 24-hour call number where you could your tenants call in, and then they'll call you to let you know, so that the tenants aren't calling you directly. So we had to move away. When we first started, we were able to have tenants to call us directly because it was slowly onboarding. But then as we grew, we had to figure out something different because we couldn't have them just calling. Like one night, I had a flood at like 2 in the morning.
Oh wow.
And we had to get on site. So Appfolio called us. And
So did you have your own team? Well, the broker you were working for, did he have his own maintenance team? Or do you just have access to a lot of independent contractors?
for a while, we had both. But for a while, like our trusted team, it was just the 3 of us. So then we would decide if we needed to pull in more people. But on like at first sight, it would just be one or all 3 of us to go. Because we had a flood.
What you want to do with a flood?
Exactly.
Call
Find
a
a contract. Yep. Find a
Call a plumber.
because a lot of our preferred contractors were 9 to 5 or they were independent, so a lot of them weren't coming out at 2 in the morning. So at that point, then you have to start looking for companies that are actually open, and then you have to start dealing with owners because now you're beyond the threshold of being able to approve. So you have to deal with owners, but at the same token, like, you don't expect them to respond at 2 in the morning. You just have to make that decision, and whether they have the money in their account or not, they just have to in turn put that back because you can't, just let it go. So we had a flood, we had a whole apartment building burn down.
Wow.
Yeah, I think those were 2 of our bigger ones. We had a lot of
Was that DC or Maryland?
DC.
So as a property manager, so our last episode was about real estate investing, and Miss Shawn talked about her being a buy and hold person, so she's a landlord basically. So tell people why they need to hire a property manager rather than managing the property themselves. So give them some reasons why you would need to be hired instead of them doing it.
So one of the reasons, like the broker I was working for, he was actually an owner in our company as well. And one of the biggest issues was legal. If you ever have to go to court, you kind of want to separate, a separation of duties. You don't want to build a relationship and then it goes sour. And then you're in court and you're in a battle with somebody that you've built like a trusting relationship with. Because if it doesn't work out in your favor and they're still your tenant, then that could cause problems later on. Other reasons I would suggest having a property manager, just the wear and tear of it. It's a lot. Everybody has landlords. You have your primary residence for one. You have families, you have kids, whatever the case may be. But there are people that test and continue education that specialize in these areas, and we are trained to pretty much handle these scenarios where we contract with preferred vendors, whereas if you just call, somebody may charge you $3,000, where if you can build service relationships and have them as a preferred vendor, then you have a contract in place and it may be $300, but so it just takes a lot of the wear and tear off. It protects relationships. It protects your pockets because, it could get. And in DC, what I've seen a lot is DC landlord and tenant is almost always for the tenant.
Okay.
They favor the tenant in a lot of cases.
Well, that's good to know from you because she is now getting ready to manage my property in DC.
Yeah.
And I say that because they give tenants a lot of opportunity to kind of fix it. Unless the situation is just absolutely uncontrollable, they give them a lot of opportunity to fix it.
Okay.
They want you to work with the tenant. Whereas like Baltimore, you have a little bit more leeway as a landlord.
Well, that was the other thing. Can you kind of tell them, being as though there are different rules and regulations for different states, like you're handling DC and Maryland, on my end for me, but explain to them how I should find someone within Baltimore to handle the Baltimore property, since
so Baltimore is like a whole different country
no, it's a whole nother world.
Baltimore, I'm learning that because Baltimore's a lot different, and a lot of people don't want to get involved in Baltimore. I've heard a lot of real estate agents don't even want to get involved in Baltimore because their rules and regulations are so different. So I'm learning, and I learned from a guy who's actually owns property in Baltimore, and he's a Baltimore native. So it's easier for him to manage his properties because he knows Baltimore. He's moved around. He's been a landlord and tenant ample times. He knows the Section 8 process in Baltimore. So it's easier for him, but me, it's like you have to really want it. You have to want to tackle it to get involved in that sphere of property management.
Well, I do know that it is public knowledge that Baltimore has been awarded, I think it was $5 million from the federal government to rehab certain areas. And Under Armour also gave them $1 million. So they had like $6 million to work with.
Is this recently?
This is within the last 7 months.
Okay.
So there's money out there that if you want to go,
Baltimore is
Baltimore. It's
crazy. I know that every area is different, and we're speaking about Baltimore in particular. I know I don't necessarily want to get involved in Baltimore because, from my experience, you could be on one street and it could be like the perfect neighborhood, and then you go to the next street and it's like one property with someone in it, and then everything else is boarded. Like not boarded, nobody lives in it, but boarded, like no roofs on the top of them. So that's why I don't really like Baltimore, because so much research has to go into, not even from the tenant side, I'm just talking about buying up there. It's just crazy. It looks crazy.
But see, that's why I think
you have to have a lot of patience
you
to go to Baltimore.
You really do. You will be discouraged.
Yeah.
I think the concept in Baltimore though, like if you're gonna buy, my idea, I follow a lot of real estate podcasts and investors and things like that on social media, and my thought process is if you're gonna buy in Baltimore, buy the block.
Right.
Yeah, that's the only way you'll be able
You're
to
gonna
really
know
talking about
buying the block.
Yeah, it's a buy the block
Or
mentality.
at least 3 in a row.
Yeah, it's something where you can maintain, and it's even hard there. I mean, because then those other two, that one, between you and the end could be a problem. But that's kind of how I feel about Baltimore. Like if you want to invest there, then buy the block if you can, or.
But they're actually going through the gentrification, just like DC. So it's discouraging because we've been looking at it for years, and I actually own one in Baltimore, and I'm having a problem, just like she's saying.
Yeah,
because of where the house sits.
With that one,
right? And what I said to you, it was like, you can't buy the one next door.
she keeps trying. She's trying to,
he won't
sell
it.
But there's no roof.
But it's no roof on it. When it rains, the water comes all the way down to the basement, and it causes problems in Michonne's unit. And he will not.
And like, he's probably waiting for the turnover so he can then.
But it's to the point now that I know this sounds, but we actually are putting a roof on his because
but you have
stopping the mold. It will stop the water from running into ours and mold in the basement, because this is the second time we had to actually do mold restoration, and it's like so we're like, why not just spend $1,000 and just throw a roof at least on half of where it's coming down into ours. And but he just
And that's the thing. It's not like you can impose those fees back on him. It's
No,
like, you know, we gotta
can't,
keep.
'cause
So that's
he
the
already made it
crazy
real clear
part.
that he wasn't gonna cooperate
Yeah.
with that.
But I mean, the gentrification is true. Like, even just me taking my son, like, a lot of times I'll go to events in Baltimore. So when you have like Royal Farms Arena or what's another one, the Hippodrome, like literally you cross the street and you're in a whole different neighborhood. So
Place.
you're in the show and you got one standard of people and then you cross the street and it's a whole different standard for you. So it's just like, wow, this is crazy.
It's a whole nother world.
Yeah, it is. So.
But the reason I was saying about the gentrification is that because she and I have been looking at it for a long time and dealing with Baltimore, and you just get discouraged because you go down one block, like she said, and the next block, and then 2 blocks over, you're like, okay, oh, this is fine. And then 2 blocks over, it's somebody,
you never know what you're gonna get.
But now that they have this funding, I get phone calls like every day.
I just feel like
if
Baltimore,
selling.
They've been doing this. They've been trying to do this for a very, very long time. I remember when I first got my when I was taking a real estate class many years ago, and the broker that taught my class, she worked in Baltimore. So back at that time, they were doing something then, kind of similar to what you're talking about now. And that was a long time ago, and it still looks the same.
No, it doesn't.
Certain places now.
Well, yeah.
Certain places.
Because I was just there, and I was even shocked. I was like, this used to be Lexington Market, and when I say you would not get out the car.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh, I can get out the car.
Okay.
So
slowly, I guess something is happening up
and then
there.
you have the situation with Morgan, where a lot of people don't know that Morgan now, if you're a freshman, you can stay on campus, but anything above a freshman has to live off campus. So that's the new thing.
Wow.
So now, they're actually, I think they're putting up some type of funding for the students.
That's going to open up opportunities for landlords too.
So, and then they said something if you live within a 10-mile radius. So, if you own something in Baltimore.
Yeah, because if they're renting houses, then they can have cars. So, it's a lot easier for them to have cars.
Yep.
Because all that housing right there at
It's not that bad. Morgan is one of the areas that's pretty okay to buy in is around where that school is. Now Coppin, I can't say the same thing because right across the street, the whole road.
I just had some friends that
doesn't have roofs.
Went to Morgan, so that area right there wasn't always.
Well, she was looking at a property in Morgan, and she was considering, and it was.
Yeah, that area is pretty okay. I think my thing was looking at if I was going to be a landlord, I was going to do it for college areas. So I've been looking at college areas for a while.
I'm glad you say that.
To figure out something. If I'm going to do it, it's going to be in an area where there's a college.
Because she's always going to have a renter.
Right.
Always have renter.
And even if she does rooms. So.
But it's crazy because so many people run away from that. They run away from Section 8. They run away from students. Like, people, especially in DC lately, I've been seeing, like, oh, I don't want students in my property. And I get it, but at the same token, it's guaranteed. Like, it's a guarantee.
Yeah.
So, and I try to push people in that direction. I'm like, you know, and that just goes back to the whole problem. Maybe you shouldn't be managing the property if you're going to put students in there. Have somebody that can put hands on your property more often than not.
Yeah, and develop that relationship with the tenant too, because I think, and I've never been a landlord before, but I think that you can train people how to treat your property. I don't think that everybody's bad. I don't think that every Section 8 person is bad. I think that if you train them just like you train your children,
that's true.
You can train your tenant to take care of your stuff.
Yeah, because you can enter the property.
Yeah. But and that's the thing that it all goes back to you having that time because if you're going to build that relationship, you have to be able to maintain it as a landlord. If not,
I
put
mean,
somebody in place.
not even necessarily from the landlord perspective, but even as a
Property
property
management
manager.
company.
If I hire you as a property manager, I need you to do this,
Right.
and this, because I need these people to take care of my property.
Right.
Because I don't want to come behind them and have to do all these
Patch
repairs
walls and floors.
because they've messed my property up, because as the property manager, you didn't like send them a birthday card. You know, if they got children, take them flowers on Mother's Day. Like, I don't care what you got to do. Like, you have to train people to
I
take
do
care
that
of
with
your
one of
stuff.
my properties.
Yeah, you have to do that.
My tenants usually, I'll send them a basket.
Mm-hmm.
They may have like paper towels or.
Yeah, and they appreciate that more than landlords really know.
And not only that, just putting hands on them, just
Mhm.
stopping by to say, hey, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if I had one tenant that couldn't make it to us to drop her rent off, if somebody could meet me at my job, okay, no problem. You have your rent. I'm not going to make it, you know, more inconvenient for you.
Mm-hmm.
You call, you've explained your situation. I'll meet you there.
Okay.
And you know, some people take advantage of it, but not everybody is in the business to take advantage of your kindness.
Right.
Or, you know, they're willing to maintain and manage those relationships a
Mhm.
little better than others. So you just have to, it's a case by case scenario. And that's why I say if you
True.
don't have the time, don't get into it. Like, I gained a passion for this once I really got in and saw what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have the time for it, then, and that's kind of part of the reason why I got out. Well, I left that company because it was so demanding, and at that time it was just me, so it was a lot on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the staff that was coming in, it's like, okay, you know, yes, I need to train, but then I didn't have the support. I needed to put the right training in progress, in a process to be able to move them along. And I had a 3-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was more important to me. So I was like, I gotta give this up. And it hurt me because I really enjoyed it. I love my tenants. You know, like you said, not all Section 8 is bad.
Right.
I love, like, Section 8 was my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I got to know people. I had market tenants that were worse than Section 8.
Exactly.
And,
and I'm
know,
sure that they are.
Right.
There are some that are.
And that's the thing, like, Section 8 is, some of them are required to pay a portion. DC has different programs.
Mm-hmm.
But you got market tenants that will go 2, 3, 4 months with
Without
nothing,
paying.
and you'll have a Section 8 tenant to call and say, you know what, I'm not gonna have it this month, but whatever the case. But DC has changed because now they pay into the program, and the program still pays you. So
Okay.
if there's any issue,
I was gonna ask that. So
Yeah.
DC still pays.
yeah. So
Even if the tenant isn't able to pay their portion, you
Mhm.
still have the portion from the.
yeah, so they deal with that. They deal with the tenant directly.
Okay.
That
makes sense
but
to do that.
even cleaning, like, that's a big issue. Keeping.
Mm-hmm.
I had market tenants. We had to go into the unit for emergency issue. Whatever they ate for breakfast was still sitting in the sink.
Mm-hmm.
Across the hall with a Section 8 tenant, you could eat off of her floor. So it was, you know.
I mean, it's just everybody is different as an
Right.
individual.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
okay.
that we get into the habit of stereotyping people
Yes.
based
Mhm.
off of, you know, a service that they needed at some point
Yes.
in their lives. And I know Section 8 is one of those things you can keep forever if you never go over the income requirement for it.
Mhm.
And
That I didn't know.
that doesn't mean that you don't know how to take care of a property. It just means you got Section 8 when you needed it, and then you were just able to keep it because your income, you know, continued to fall into that criteria that they have set for the number of children and all of that stuff that they have.
See, I look at it too. Not everybody is going to abuse the system.
Right.
Some people will take advantage of what is being offered. Which I've done it because I feel as though, guess what? I've been paying taxes how long?
Mm-hmm.
So when I got pregnant with my first child, I need that back.
Mhm.
I'm gonna need that whip.
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna need that check.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I've
Mhm.
paid all these years. I've been working since I was 14 years old.
Mhm.
So I don't see anything
I mean,
wrong
when
with
you need assistance, you should be able to take advantage of it. I just don't think that people should stereotype based off of something like that. Now, as a real estate agent, we can't even mention, like when I do rental listings,
Mhm.
I can't even say anything about housing choice vouchers. I can't say no housing choice. We are prohibited from even mentioning that type of stuff. But agents will call and be like, "You accepting vouchers?" And it's really truly up to the tenant. I mean, to the owner, if they want to go through that process, because they don't have to, because of what's required when they get involved in it.
And DCHA has really cracked down just for DC on the requirements for your property to qualify as under the housing choice voucher program. It's I mean, they are meticulous down to, there's a small hole in the baseboard here and we can't pass your inspection.
Yeah.
So, because so many people were falling through the cracks, and you have kids, you have lead situations. A lot of DC properties are old,
really
so
old,
you have too many opportunities. Yeah, I haven't even
judged that market.
But it's just too many opportunities for failure, and then DC, it's against them. So you have to just they're very meticulous on that, and just know that not everybody that has a voucher is looking to stay with a voucher. Like, some of them want to move on, and now with something else, it's just you have to kind of meet people where they are and understand where they're trying to go. Some of them want to grow, and they want to understand what's my next option. But because you stereotype them, you think, I'm gonna just put them in here and collect this money from the city and keep it moving. Like, that's not always the case.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just different.
And I'm sorry if you guys hear any noise. It's still that Corona time.
Yeah, we have.
So we still have our Corona kids.
Still adding kids to the Corona.
Hopefully they don't start running through.
Again.
That's our time, especially with Miss Brittany here, because we have a guest. But Britt, it's good to know about. I mean, I can't rent to Section 8, and that's because of. But it's good to know. I do know a couple of people that do have Section 8, and they haven't had any problems with their tenants. None. Like, they say they go and they visit probably every 30 days.
And you have to do that.
Yes.
You have to do that.
And that's when you were saying, I was like, that makes sense. Because
if they know you're coming,
like you said.
Nobody wants to run around at the last minute and I have an inspection coming up. I know people that do it, but nobody really wants to.
So if you do, like he does the 30-day, I never asked him, do you have to can you write something up if something's going on that's wrong in the home, and then you submit it somewhere, or how does that work? So say if, I'm just using that as an example, say if he did an inspection one day, he got there and there was drugs on the table. How does the landlord approach that if it's a Section 8 tenant, which is being covered by the city?
That would be a special situation, because drugs, you automatically have to notify their case or DC housing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Those are clauses in their lease. Like noise, drugs is an automatic. They lose their voucher.
So, but I'm saying from the landlord's perspective, what do they do if they run into this? Because the landlord is doing the inspection. So do they contact these cities?
And it's always best to have proof. Take pictures. You have that right to take pictures, because even with the DC marijuana laws, if it's not your home, it's not legal.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Say that again.
If it's not your home, it's not legal. So when we used to go through lease signings, we had to explain to them,
wow, okay.
If we can report you if there's a marijuana issue. And a lot of times, you try to, if you have a decent tenant and you come in, you smell marijuana, you try to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's a warning. I'm not going, and especially if you have a 4-unit, 6-unit, you can't pinpoint it to a particular unit.
Yeah, because you can smell it throughout the whole place.
So you just kind of notice, but then if it's continuous, and then you can kind of pinpoint it, you can, if it's, when I was there, what they were saying, if it's not your property, it's not legalized for you to smoke in that property.
Wow. Okay. That's new information. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, and if that has changed, or if that information wasn't all true, but that was, when we went through the lease signing, we had to even talk about noise ordinances. You're responsible for your kids. If we keep getting complaints about that, we have to notify your caseworker. It's really, the program is created to help people, But because so many people take advantage of it, I mean, even like trash, you're causing problems for other residents or even for this landlord.